Hello everyone, GoldenNova here, and boy howdy is today gonna be an awesome day. I know I'm not the first person you all go to when it comes to crystal beasts, but I've quite enjoyed the theme myself, and while the beasts of the gladiator persuasion were my deck of choice, crystal beasts were their companion in competition, piloted by another of my wonderful partners, Sky. You excited for all the new support?
Sure am. It's my favorite archetype, and I'm really glad they got some new cards to really polish up the deck.
Hey, careful with those puns. I've gotta save a few for the rest of the episode after all.
Can't help it. Some of them are real gems.
Alright already. So yeah, today we're talking about Crystal Beasts, a theme that premiered in the May 2007 core set Force of the Breaker, and were piloted by the sweetest, most down-home country boy this side of Domino City, Jesse Anderson. It's been a fan favorite for 15 years, receiving various waves of support over that time, but now with the imminent release of the Legend of the Crystal Beast structure deck, there's no better time to cover all the cards, new and old, so you can pick up these colorful critters with pride. Let's lay out our gems to bask in their splendor, examine their cut to see how they shine, then find out what other crystals we can place beside them to enhance their brilliance. It's time to get things crystal clear with Crystal Beast.
Hey, sorry I'm late. I brought ABC Crystal Beast, Tri-Brigade Crystal Beast, Mech Knight Crystal Beast. Did you start without me?
Oh crap. Cut to the call to action! Cut to the call to action! Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my content so far. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers, and there's no better way to get there than on our dual runners. Our next stop is 40k, which means Leo and Luna Explained, where we'll be covering Ancient Fairy Dragon's companions, the Power Tool Dragons, Morphtronics, and any other cards that are more than meets the eye. We've also got our Discord, where we've been visited by that darn cat. I also have a Twitch where you can join me for viewer duels, progression pulls, and chaos draft pulls for the foreseeable future. And don't forget about my Patreon, where you can gain access to my videos early, reach some of these milestones, as well as helping to determine which videos I make. Thank you all so much for watching, and now, back to the video. So what's the deal with Crystal Beasts? Well, this is one of those decks that doesn't really have a consistent type, attribute, level, or any of the usual stats. Instead, they all share an interesting quality that would pioneer several cards to come. If these face-up cards are destroyed while in the monster card zone, you can place that card in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell card instead of sending it to the grave. This means you won't have much room in your back row if you want to make space for your little friends, and they don't do anything on their own, but many of their surrounding cards care that you have Crystal Beasts in your spell and trap card zone, and how many. Now, Union monsters did exist before this, so it's not the first time monsters have occupied the spell and trap zone, but now they have a much more standalone quality. Instead of being tied to a particular monster, they worked within their own set of rules, and so paved the way for cards like Silver Sentinel and the Artifacts, all the way to the modern Valence. Let's start by covering the initial Crystal Beast cards, then we'll move on to different eras as they come up. First is one of the most important, Crystal Beast Ruby Carbuncle, a level 3 light fairy monster with 300 attack and defense, and when this card is special summoned, you can special summon as many Crystal Beast monster cards as possible from your spell and trap card zone. Now, there are several effects that summon Crystal Beasts from your back row, so it might seem like you have to do that to trigger this, but it doesn't specify how, so any way you special summon Carbuncle will trigger this. And it can lead to some massive swings in card advantage. The more Crystal Beasts in your back row, the more material you had for, yeah, basically anything. It's also arguably the cutest Crystal Beast, right down to its tiny little people hands. They're like a little raccoon. Crystal Beast Emerald Tortoise is a level 3 water aqua monster with 600 attack and 2000 defense, and once per turn you can target a monster you control that attacked this turn and change that target to defense position. Now, this doesn't have to only be used on Tortoise, though it is useful for letting you poke in with our big green friend while keeping them safe. This doesn't even specify we have to change the position of a Crystal Beast monster, so if you want, you could unlock the power of clown control! I mean, when it comes to being colorful enough to join the Crystal Beasts, Dream Clown has that down pat. Crystal Beast Amethyst Cat is a level 3 Earth Beast monster with 1200 attack and 400 defense, and this card can attack your opponent directly, but when it uses this effect, any battle damage it inflicts to your opponent is halved. So this is another way to deal some chip damage, though this can be through a monster lineup. Not that it's super relevant, as your offensive power should be centered on more threatening creatures, but if your opponent's life points dip too low, you can always steal a game out of nowhere. They may look cute, but this cat has claws. Crystal Beast Cobalt Eagle is a level 4 Wind-Winged Beast monster with 1400 attack and 800 defense, and once per turn you can target a face-up Crystal Beast card you control and return that target to the top of your deck. This has easily been the least useful of the team, but if you want to play Rainbow Dragon, you gotta run it. Or at least you had to run it. However, it does have some utility. The idea is that you can reset any Crystal Beast in your spell and trap zone in case you need them back in the fight. In particular, resetting Sapphire Pegasus to use its effect again, which, as you'll find out, is always useful. Unfortunately, it does that in the worst way possible by sealing your next draw, but hey, it's a level 4 wind monster, so at least it helps you access Lightning Chidori. Crystal Beast Topaz Tiger is a level 4 Earth Beast monster with 1600 attack and 1000 defense, and if this card attacks an opponent's monster, it gains 400 attack during the damage step only. This effect is very similar to another Jolly GX monster, Steamroid. The difference being that Steamroid gets a bigger attack stat bonus when attacking, but it does take a hit to their attack when they're targeted for an attack. Tiger, on the other hand, has no such drawback, and only grows when attacking, if only a little bit. But 2000 on a normal summon is nothing to sneeze at, as even today it'll contest just about any normal summon, an effect that'll saber-tooth rattle the competition. Crystal Beast Amber Mammoth is a level 4 Earth Beast monster with 1700 attack and 1600 defense, and when another face-up Crystal Beast monster you control is targeted for an attack, you can make this card the attack target instead. This is useful to pair alongside Amethyst Cat, or really any Crystal Beast, to take the hit so you can preserve other effects you'd like to use later, or just prevent attacks altogether if their attack power isn't big enough. It also has one of the funniest dub voices out of the entire cast, maybe even the entirety of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime. See, all of the Crystal Beasts have dual spirits that Jessie speaks with, and Amber Mammoth, voiced by iconic Son Goku voice actor Sean Schemmel, is doing their best Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. Literally cannot say anything funnier than that. I'm not even gonna try. If I'm the first person you've heard this from, you need to look up some clips. You will not regret it. Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus is a level 4 Wind Beast monster with 1800 attack and 1200 defense, and when this card is summoned, you can place a Crystal Beast monster from your hand, deck, or grave, and place it face up in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell card. Sapphire Pegasus isn't just the monster you have with the highest base attack stat, but also accelerates your Crystal Beast count, drawing them right out of the deck and into the back row. Though the more popular targets are going to be Ruby Carbuncle to set up the big special summons, other Sapphire Pegasi that make for great monsters to summon with Ruby Carbuncle, and Cobalt Eagle so you can get it out of your deck and no longer have to worry about it. Most successful builds are going to revolve around how often you can resolve this effect, helped by the fact that this isn't once per turn, which means you have to spend less brain power figuring out your combo lines, which can then be converted into figuring out why this doesn't count as a winged beast. That's all of the original Crystal Beasts, but they lack a certain power. A way to end the game quickly before your opponent can mount a comeback. And that's where our first boss monster comes in. Rainbow Dragon, a level 10 light dragon monster with 4000 attack and 0 defense that's always treated as an ultimate crystal card. A bit of reminder text meant to make up for the initial translation being a little bit off. They've changed the names of cards before, but I think they chose not to because at this point, Rainbow Dragon is basically iconic. This card can't be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned from your hand by having 7 Crystal Beast cards with different names on your field and or in your grave. As a quick effect, you can send all face-up Crystal Beast monsters you control to the grave, and this card gains 1000 attack for each monster sent to the grave. You can also banish all Crystal Beast monsters from your grave to shuffle all cards on the field into the deck, but none of these cards' effects can be activated the turn it's special summoned. 4000's a hard attack stat to argue with, especially because your opponent is gonna have to commit a monster to the board to keep you from swinging half their life points away, and the longer it's on the field, the more likely it is to be a threat. While its attack gain effect can only send Crystal Beasts in monster form, even 2 of them make Rainbow Dragon a 6000 attack monster, and because it's a quick effect, you can attack with those monsters first before converting them into attack power for Rainbow Dragon, a gain that is permanent by the way. And while its shuffle effect does get rid of Rainbow Dragon and resets your crystal count, if you need to rip up an opponent's field, this is how you do it. But it's hard not to be annoyed at the fact that Rainbow is dragging its feet with its effects. For a given value of feet, that is. Okay, that's all of our monsters. Now it's time to cover the first wave of spell and trap support. Crystal Abundance is a normal spell card that can only be activated by sending 4 Crystal Beast cards from your spell and trap zone to the grave to send all cards on the field to the grave.
Then, special summon as many Crystal Beast monsters as possible from your grave up to the number of cards your opponent controlled that were sent to the grave by this effect. So you can't use this unless you've banked 4 back row Crystal Beasts, but the payoff is incredible. It's non-targeting, non-destruction removal that board wipes and gets you a board right afterwards by converting your opponent's advantage into yours by way of Crystal Beast summons. Resolving this is basically a win condition all on its own, as you can swing in for copious amounts of damage afterwards, or use them as material to make even better monsters, which makes this card almost as cool as fellow Yu-Gi tuber Crystal Abundance, but hey, being close to that is still pretty swell. Crystal Beacon is a normal spell card that special summons a Crystal Beast monster from your deck, but you need 2 or more Crystal Beast cards in your spell and trap zone to activate and resolve this effect. This is an excellent way to extend your plays, getting you another Sapphire Pegasus to fill up your back row, or a Ruby Carbuncle to deploy the Crystal Beasts that were already in your back row that you needed to have to resolve this card in the first place. And because Crystal Beasts have a variety of types and attributes to draw from for extra deck summons, this card really shines a light on your combos. Crystal Blessing is a normal spell card that targets up to 2 Crystal Beast monsters in your grave and places those targets face up in your spell and trap zone as continuous spell cards. This is a quick way to recharge your back row and gives you just the right amount you need for Crystal Beacon, which is just fantabulous. Though it's hard to recommend now since that's all it does, and with a bunch of modern releases, we have a ton of ways to fill up our back row, so you might as well just forget about this. After all, ignorance is bliss. Crystal Promise is a normal spell card that targets a Crystal Beast card in your spell and trap zone and special summons it. This is kind of like our Monster Reborn, and all the stuff we talked about with Crystal Beacon applies here as well, though in a more limited capacity to go along with our limited pool of summons. But it also requires less windup than Beacon, since it's useful in all stages of the game for different reasons. Earlier, it's easier to get off the ground since you don't need as much setup, and later on, you'll have more choices to pick from, provided you actually have Crystal Beasts in your back row to summon. Otherwise, it's a dead card that doesn't really deliver on the promise of card advantage. Rare Value is a normal spell card that can only be activated if you have 2 or more Crystal Beast cards in your spell and trap zone. Your opponent chooses one of them, you send it to the grave, and if you do, draw 2 cards. The archetypal Draw 2 spell, though this one lacks a certain punch that many others have. Sending one of your Crystal Beasts from the back row to the grave doesn't really advance your game plan. In fact, it kind of stifles it. And not only are you losing one of your crystal critters, your opponent can pick the one that's most useful to you, which feels like kind of a ripoff. But regardless, draw power was important, especially in the old days, so having a way to dig for more gas was kind of important. Though with the large swath of good cards having been released recently, I think it'll be rare to see people playing Rare Value. Crystal Tree is a continuous spell card, and each time any number of Crystal Beast monsters are placed in either player's spell and trap zone, place a crystal counter on this card. You can also send this card to the grave to take a number of Crystal Beast monsters from your deck equal to the number of crystal counters that were on this card and place them face up in your spell and trap zone as continuous spells. This made for an incredible way to fill up your back row to turbocharge your other effects. A single Sapphire Pegasus ended up getting you 2 Crystal Beasts in the back row, and if you waited until Pegasus got punted into the back row, then that was 2 counters you could cash in, at which point you'd have a full 4 ready to go for Crystal Abundance plays. Now, with advancements in Crystal Power Creep, this card is a little less useful, but for its time, planting this little seed led to an amazing harvest. Crystal Release is an equipped spell card that can only be equipped to a Crystal Beast monster. It gains a whopping 800 attack, and when this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can place a Crystal Beast monster from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone. That's actually a pretty wild attack boost. Amethyst Cat sits at a respectable 2,000 while dealing 1,000 direct when not being threatened. Amber Mammoth can now redirect your opponent towards a 2,500 attack monster, which is much more dangerous. And Topaz Tiger, with its own attack boost, can reach the heights of 2,800 attack. And if your opponent destroys that Crystal Beast, or you get it off the field yourself, this card will reward you with 1 more back row Crystal Beast. It's a stupendously powerful card, even if it was just for the time, and just goes to show you how powerful you can get when you sign the proper release forms. Ancient City Rainbow Ruins is a field spell that has a variety of stacking effects, depending on the number of Crystal Beast cards in your spell and trap card zone. Though it's one of those effects where you have to have a number of cards on the field to activate and resolve the effect. So if your opponent whips out a Twin Twister in the middle of building a chain, then you've got issues.
With 1 Crystal Beast in the back row, Rainbow Ruins can't be destroyed by card effects. With 2, once per turn, including the opponent's, you can have 1 instance of battle damage you take. With 3, during either player's turn, when a spell or trap card is activated, you can send a Crystal Beast monster you control to the grave to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. With 4, once per turn, you draw a card, and with 5 once per turn, you can target a Crystal Beast card in your spell and trap zone and special summon that target. Wow, that is a lot of power, and I'd go so far as to say that pound for pound, this is the most powerful field spell ever printed. Sure, there are more competitively viable field spells, Dragonic Diagram, Lair of Darkness, the Hidden City, and the Mind that shall not be named, but Rainbow Ruins is chock full of 5 effects, each one more potent than the last, including card draw and monster revival, 2 of the best effects ever made in this game. It protects itself, it keeps you in games longer by having battle damage, it can even turn each Crystal Beast into a Sprite Carrot. Ancient City Rainbow Ruins is a god among field spells, and Jesse help you if they somehow find a way to retrain this into a more powerful version, because then the format is going to be Ancient Ruined. Counter Gem is a normal trap card that sends all cards in your spell and trap card zone to the grave, then you place as many Crystal Beast monsters as possible from your grave to your spell and trap card zone as possible as continuous spell cards, and during the end phase, destroy all face-up Crystal Beast cards you control. That counts the ones in your back row as well as your monsters, so when you activate this, you better have a game plan. However, what this does do for you is outrageous. It can turn itself and at least 1 other spell and trap card into a full 5 back row Crystal Beasts, because thankfully Counter Gem sends itself. At that point, Rainbow Ruins can summon one of your monsters out, and if you don't use Ruby Carbuncle to swarm the entire back row, you have a zone free to use Crystal Beacon, Promise, and Abundance. And while your back row Crystal Beasts won't survive the turn, any that you have in your monster zone will go back to your back row because they were destroyed. Though you'll need to make sure that there's room there, since going to the back row is a replacement effect, and the destruction all happens at the same time. Yu-Gi-Oh's pretty weird that way. In fact, the big thing holding this back is that it's a trap card. Being able to use this at will would have been phenomenal, but now the earliest time you can use this is on your opponent's turn, which is pretty counterintuitive. Crystal Raigeki is a normal trap card that sends a Crystal Beast card from your spell and trap zone to the grave to target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. Yeah, that's a pretty solid card. It's 1 for 2 removal, so it does cost you a bit, but it can hit a wide range of cards, and with spells like Crystal Blessing, recovering spent Crystal Beasts is a breeze. It might be concerning that these gems have that kind of power to wipe cards off the face of the earth like that, but I'll leave that analysis up to the radiologists. Crystal Pair is a normal trap card that you can activate when a Crystal Beast monster you control is destroyed by battle and sent to the grave. You place a Crystal Beast monster from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell, and you take no battle damage for the rest of the turn. Ooh, that's a pretty nice way to blank a battle phase, not gonna lie. Your opponent can't end things by battle if they can't do battle damage after all. It can also help you when you want to self-destruct your Crystal Beasts if you need a fast track to back row numbers. It could otherwise be pretty costly to your life points to keep running into big monsters to enable an effect like Crystal Abundance, but if you turn off battle damage, you don't have to worry about it. Besides, what's better than this? Just crystals be in pairs. Last Resort is a normal trap card that you can only activate when your opponent's monster declares an attack. You select an Ancient City Rainbow Ruins from your deck and activate it. If your opponent had an active field spell card when this card was activated, they can draw a card. This is here because it was made during old field spell rules where only one person could have an active field spell between 2 players. So this was kind of like a way to give a card back to your opponent that lost one, which is even more lame now after the field spell changes because now they just get a free draw for no reason. Last Resort is basically unplayable, and that's saying something considering Generator Boss Fight is functionally the same card and sees consistent play in that theme, but why the beach chair on the moon? Well, as far as I can tell, because space is the final frontier, if you put a vacation hotel here, then it would be, by necessity, a last resort. This is another card that has outpunned anything I could possibly come up with, as well as the Spiral card, so we'll just, move on. Rainbow Gravity is a normal trap card that you can activate if you have 7 or more Crystal Beast cards with different names on your field or in your grave, and it lets you special summon an ultimate crystal monster from your deck or grave, ignoring summoning conditions. Yeah, so this is basically just a way to pull Rainbow Dragon, and by extension Rainbow Dark Dragon, hold on to that for later, out of our deck once you've met the summoning conditions. So that's good, I guess. But if 3 isn't enough, you could play this, but I assure you, Gravity is only going to weigh you down. Rainbow Path is a normal trap card that you can activate when your opponent declares an attack. You send a Crystal Beast card from your spell and trap zone to the grave to target the attacking monster, negate the attack, then you can add a Rainbow Dragon or Rainbow Dark Dragon, a templating I assumed would be eroded to Ultimate Crystal Monster if reprinted today, from your deck to your hand. This seems nominally worse than Rainbow Gravity because you still need the 7 Crystal Beasts to actually summon the dragon you searched, so you might as well go for the card that actually summons the darn thing. But this negates an attack, so that's something. Look, some of these old Crystal Beast support cards aren't exactly spicy, they definitely go off the beaten path. Alright, that's all the initial era Crystal Beast cards. Now we're going to cover all the cards released after that, but before the structure deck. And the first ones I want to talk about are frustrating, to say the least. Crystal Master is a level 3 Dark Spellcaster Pendulum monster with 1300 attack and 1000 defense with a scale of 5. As a pendulum spell, your opponent can't target ultimate crystal monsters or Crystal Beast cards you control with card effects, and as a monster you can tribute this card to add an ultimate crystal monster, Crystal Beast, or Crystal Spell or Trap card from your deck to your hand. And their accompanying scale is Crystal Keeper, a level 4 Fire Warrior Pendulum monster with 1500 attack and 1800 defense with a scale of 2. As a pendulum spell, each turn, the first time an ultimate crystal monster and or Crystal Beast card you control would be destroyed by card effect, it is not, and as a monster, if a Crystal Beast monster you control battles an opponent's monster during damage calculation as a quick effect, you can tribute this card from your hand or face up on the field, and your battling monster's attack and defense become double its original attack and defense during that damage calculation only, but is destroyed at the end of the damage step, which is pretty cool because it'll just mean your Crystal Beast goes to your back row. Now, these cards are actually really good. Master searches out any card you could possibly want. Keeper helps your Crystal Beasts win battles they otherwise wouldn't be able to. Both provide great protection and scales, and they're even great references to Jesse Anderson, donning outfits similar to his time as a good boy, as well as when Yubel possessed him and decided his wardrobe should be entirely made up of straps. And on top of all that, it was an excellent execution of mechanics, because you could play them in the pendulum zones and not get in the way, because now you finally had spells that would stay on the field and provide continual effects without getting in the way of you accruing Crystal Beasts in your back row. Until Master Rule 4 dropped. Previously, when the pendulum zones were independent, you didn't have to worry about that. But now that they're merged with the left and rightmost spell and trap zones, these really great support cards now directly conflict with your game plan. And you know what the worst part is? In the OCG, these cards were released in the core set Secrets of Eternity, blah blah blah, you know the joke. That was near the beginning of the Pendulum era, so it made sense to release these cards then. But it was part of the OCG only section of the pack, and it was replaced by the TCG exclusive cards when it came over here. So when did we get Crystal Keeper and Master? In Flames of Destruction, almost a year into Master Rule 4. That makes them easily one of the biggest casualties of the Link era. And even after the Master Rule 4 revision, where Fusion, Synchros, and Xyz got a lot more flexibility, Pendulums were given no such leeway. And while I wouldn't call them useless, trying to utilize these two will now keep you from mastering the deck. Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, or should I say Rainbow Dragon the Zenith Crystal Beast, is a level 8 light dragon monster with 3000 attack and 0 defense, and despite its appearance, has the same ability to crystallize into a continuous spell card when destroyed while face up in the monster zone. When an attack is declared involving a Crystal Beast monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, super dope, and you can banish this continuous spell card to special summon a level 4 or lower Crystal Beast monster from your deck, but negate its effects if any, and if you do, add an ultimate crystal monster from your deck to your hand. This is, without a doubt, one of the most ridiculously powerful cards at this deck's disposal at the moment. You can easily place this in your back row with Sapphire Pegasus, at which point Zenith Rainbow Dragon can turn into any other crystal beast. Excellent for getting materials for whatever kind of summon you want. Then fetch a Rainbow Dragon for your troubles. Like, here's a few plays off the top of my head. You can make any of the Link to Nightmare monsters, and the Rainbow Dragon you search is guaranteed discard fodder. You can make Tri-Brigade Farragut to summon more beasts, beast warriors, or winged beasts out of your hand. Heck, Pegasus and Cobalt Eagle are tri-types, so any spare Tri-Brigade main deck monsters can use them for grave linking. And if you summon Cobalt Eagle, then there we go, there's that Lightning Chidori I was talking about. Or really any generic rank 4 your heart desires. And of course, it's another name for Rainbow Dragon Summon, which is really cool. This card enables so much that there's no way I could do all of it justice in one video, which is another reason why you have to be subscribing to Neshy right now. This man breathes Crystal Beasts, is a great resource if you're looking to pick up the deck, and even if you don't much care to play them, the sheer spectacle of what this man can do with the theme is entertaining enough. Also, he's like super chill. I'm still not convinced he isn't channeling the spirit of Jesse Anderson. Rainbow Overdragon is a level 12 light dragon fusion monster with 4,000 attack and 0 defense, is always treated as an ultimate crystal monster, and requires 7 crystal beast monsters as fusion material. Though you can also special summon them by tributing a level 10 ultimate crystal monster, so you can just transform Rainbow Dragon, or Dark, into this. Once per turn you can banish a crystal beast monster from your grave, and this card gains attack equal to the banished monster's attack until the end of this turn. And as a quick effect, you can tribute this fusion summoned card to shuffle all cards on the field into the deck. So the major upgrade here is that you can actually use Overdragon's effects the turn it's summoned. Great improvement. The attack gain is a little nerfed since you can't send a whole field of crystal beasts to the grave for oodles of attack, but you can still net yourself a little over 1,000, which is pretty nice. Its board wipe is now a quick effect and doesn't banish your grave to do it, but it only works when fusion summoned, so cheating it into play with the Rainbow Dragon version of the summon locks out that effect. And if you summon this with Dragon's Mirror, that kind of makes the graveyard retention a moot point. There is a way to fusion summon this card economically, but it's still a little unwieldy, so as it stands, Overdragon is just a marginally better version of base Rainbow Dragon that you can use to get a little extra value off the one you searched with Zenith. Which is a real shame because I feel like this card could have easily taken the deck over the top. Crystal Bond is a normal spell card that adds any Crystal Beast monster from your deck to your hand, and places a Crystal Beast monster with a different name from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. Wowza, this card is awesome! Not only do you guarantee Sapphire Pegasus in your hand, you can immediately set Zenith to your back row. Then, when you summon the Sapphire Pegasus, you can get a second Crystal Beast in your back row, and from that point on, you can go to town. I don't have much to say beyond this being an excruciatingly powerful setup card, and it has the most adorable artwork! Why can't I be the one petting Ruby Carbuncle? Rainbow Bridge is a normal spell card that adds any crystal spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. They didn't even put a once per turn on this because I suppose they didn't think we'd try to break this, huh? So yeah, this basically works as more copies of Crystal Bond, so you know you'll be seeing it early and often. It can also help you run minimal copies of Abundance, so you only see it when you're ready to party, not to mention the wealth of spells and traps we're going to be talking about later on. The only downside is that it can't search some targets that would have been perfect. You'll still have to rely on terraforming to get Ancient City Rainbow Ruins, and rare value is still, you know, rare value. Oh well, we can't all be on the rainbow road to success. Rainbow Refraction is a quick play spell that you can activate if any monsters whose original name are Rainbow Dragon or Rainbow Dark Dragon activated its effects this turn to special summon any number of Crystal Beast monsters with different names from your deck. Now that Zenith is on the table, this could effectively OTK your opponent, then summon out enough monsters to go for game. But because Rainbow Dragon has to wait a turn to use its effect, and this for some reason didn't get the ultimate crystal templating so it could work with Overdragon, you will have to wait a turn before you can use this, which in this game is an eternity. Oh well, I'm sure somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a play that this worked in once in a lullaby. Crystal Conclave is a continuous trap card, and once per turn, if any number of face-up Crystal Beast monsters you control are destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can special summon a Crystal Beast monster from your deck. Remember, it says Crystal Beast monsters, so this doesn't work if they're destroyed while crystallized. You can also send this face-up card from the field to the grave, then target a Crystal Beast card you control and any other card on the field and return them to the hand. However, you can't activate these effects in the same chain, which is technically a restriction, but sounds more like it was a way to keep you from messing up the card, since using the second effect while trying to use the first would result in some bad feels. But yeah, this card is amazing. Normally we'd be pretty peeved to have a continuous card in our back row taking up space, but like Crystal Tree, this card has its own off button, and the effect that comes with it is amazing. You can recycle your own Crystal Beasts with this while compulsing one of your opponent's cards, and bouncing cards back to the hand is a pretty good way to deal with anything, especially extra deck monsters. And until you use that effect, you get a card that replaces your Crystal Beasts with others when it gets destroyed. Kind of like Crystal Pair, but way better. There's quite a lot of pros, and hardly any conclaves. Rainbow Bridge of Salvation is a normal trap card that you can activate if there are 2 or more different types among the level 10 or higher monsters on the field. You shuffle all cards except this one from both players' hands, fields, and graves into the deck, then each player draws 5. You can also banish this card from your grave to add a Crystal Beast monster and any field spell from your deck to your hand, but you can only apply each effect once per duel. Wow, talk about your anime reference cards. Now, Crystal Beasts only have dragons for their level 10s or higher, so you'll either have to tech in some train cards or side this in against Eldritch, which, to be fair, would actually be a pretty sick counterplay. Not to mention what this will do against any errant Sacred Beast players out there. Alternatively, you could play this as discard fodder because its grave effect is outstanding. It turns into a free Crystal Beast search plus terraforming, which can be Rainbow Ruins, or another important field spell we'll cover later, or really anything you want. Obligatory Mystic Mine reference here. It's an odd card with some undeniable synergies, and while Crystal Beasts don't have any on-theme discarding as an outlet for this, the Nightmare monsters are only a Pegasus summon away, so I'm salivating over salvation. Ultimate Crystal Magic is a normal trap card that you can activate when one of your Crystal Beast monsters are destroyed by battle. You can send 7 Crystal Beast cards with different names from your deck, hand, and or face-up field to the grave to special summon an Ultimate Crystal Fusion monster from your extra deck, and this is treated as a fusion summon. And if a face-up Ultimate Crystal monster you control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from your grave to place any number of Crystal Beast monsters from your grave face-up in your spell and trap zone as continuous spells. So here's our big fusion effect, which means we get Over Dragon's big board wipe effect. It also kind of gives it an honorary floating effect if you don't manage to use that effect, filling up your whole back row with Crystal Beasts. It even works with base Rainbow Dragon too, just in case. Still, the fact that it's a trap card is a big limiting factor, but the payoff is fantastic. Though, is it really the ultimate crystal magic? Like, Crystal Bond exists, and I've gotta say, that's way better magic. Alright, now it's time to cover these structure deck cards, and we'll be leading off with a new fusion monster, Ultimate Crystal Rainbow Dragon Overdrive, a level 12 light dragon monster with 4,000 attack and 0 defense, requiring an Ultimate Crystal monster and 7 Crystal Beast monsters as material, and must be special summoned from your extra deck during a duel that you've summoned any Ultimate Crystal monster by banishing the above material from your field and or grave. Which means that while this is an Ultimate Crystal monster, it does have a must-be summon requirement, so you can't use Ultimate Crystal Magic to summon this. Guess that's another knock against its ultimate status. While 7 or more of your Crystal Beast monsters with different names are banished, this card gains 7,000 attack! And if this card has not battled this turn as a quick effect, you can tribute this card to shuffle as many cards on the field as possible into the deck, and if you do, special summon any number of your banished Crystal Beast monsters. Okay, pardon my French, but this card fucking whips. Basically, if you can summon base Rainbow Dragon, you can just make Overdrive immediately, get what amounts to an 11,000 attack monster that ends the game immediately if it attacks anything that's as strong as or weaker than a goddamn Blue Eyes, and if that wasn't enough, if your opponent has all kinds of cards that would prevent this, you can clear the whole board and replace it with enough Crystal Beasts to end the game themselves. I'm telling you, having a 3,000 attack Crystal Beast monster opened up so many good play sequences. So, on top of all your your other tricks, you can just drop a game ender out of nowhere, absolutely unhinged. Sorry 5Ds, you better move over, cause Jesse's the one kicking this duel into overdrive. Crystal Protection is a normal spell card that targets a Crystal Beast monster card you control and destroys it, then special summons a Crystal Beast token with the same original attribute, level, attack, and defense. And if any number of Crystal Beast cards are played in your spell and trap zone and this card is in your grave, even during the damage step, you can banish this card to special summon a Crystal Beast monster card from your spell and trap zone. Now, note that this card mentions monster cards. This is an important distinction, and you'll see templating like this in other themes that have monsters that go into the spell and trap zone. A notable example being Plunder Patrol. With the words capitalized like this, it's checking the card itself, not necessarily what it's being treated as. And even while they're crystallized, they're still monster cards. And while you'd probably want to focus on destroying your non-back row Crystal Beast so you're not losing out on value, sometimes you might not have a choice. And being able to keep your monster presence while setting up your back row is pretty neat. And its grave effect is also pretty snazzy, effectively being a crystal promise from the grave. Though keep in mind that this does not combo with itself, or at least with the same copy of itself, as it'll be on the field when the destruction happens. Regardless, this spell is ridiculously powerful, but doesn't really prevent any kind of destruction, so what about this seems like protection to you? Awakening of the Crystal Lord is a quick play spell that you can activate if you either reveal an ultimate crystal monster in your hand, in which case you get to resolve one of these effects, or if you control an ultimate crystal monster, in which case you get both effects in sequence. First, you take a Rainbow Bridge card or Rainbow Refraction from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the grave. And the second is special summoning a Crystal Beast monster card from your hand, deck, grave, or spell and trap zone. Boy howdy, this card is so good! Needing to have access to an ultimate crystal monster may seem like a big deterrent, and it's totally gonna hurt if you don't have access to it, but remember, Zenith Crystal Beast is now a thing, so any Sapphire Pegasus or Crystal Bond will at least get you one of these effects. And what effects they are! The special summon is already pretty nice, but the search is incredible. Rainbow Bridge by itself turns into any crystal spell or trap card, and it hugely boosts the playability of Salvation because this can just send it to the grave, which at that point turns into 2 searches. And the next Rainbow Bridge card we can search is pretty nutty as well. And once you land either Rainbow Dragon, Over Dragon, or Overdrive, then you're getting an outrageous amount of value. So if any of you are sleeping on this deck, this card should be your big awakening. Rainbow Bridge of the Heart is a continuous spell card, and during your main phase, you get an additional normal summon of a Crystal Beast monster. During your main phase, you can destroy a Crystal Beast card you control or in your hand, and if you do, add a Crystal Spell or Trap card from your deck to your hand. And if any number of Crystal Beast cards are placed in your spell and trap zone, you can target a card your opponent controls and return both it and this card to the hand. So now we have a Crystal Conclave in spell form. You get the extra normal summon to turbo out your monsters, and by monsters I mean Sapphire Pegasus, pop a monster to search a Crystal Spell or Trap card, and by that I generally mean Bond, and that triggers the double bounce to get this card out of the way to make room for your Crystal Beasts. This card does everything. I thought the Sacred Beast structure deck was pushed, but this is outrageous! The only thing this doesn't guarantee is actually having a Crystal Beast in hand, but as long as you have that, you're good to go. It's so cool to see this deck get so much power behind it. In fact, I'd say it's rather heartening. Crystal Grace is a normal trap card that special summons up to 2 Crystal Beast monster cards from your spell and trap zone, and if you do, gain life points equal to their total original attack. Hey, a way to win in time, awesome! If any number of Crystal Beast cards are placed in the spell and trap zone while this card is in your grave, even during the damage step, you can banish this card and excavate the top card of your deck. And if it's a Crystal Beast monster, either add it to your hand or special summon it. Otherwise, send it to the grave. Oh my god, they made Cobalt Eagle's effect actually useful! Though if I'm being honest, I'd really rather just take the chance on whiffing the excavate than, fate sealing myself. But if you want to guarantee that Sapphire Pegasus summon, well, that's the way you do it. And the double Crystal Beast summon can't be overlooked either, because like the card it shows, one of them can be Ruby Carbuncle, and that means even more summons, and is otherwise a way to summon 2 blockers and or materials while gaining a hefty chunk of life points. It doesn't seem like you could get a better Grace card unless you slap the word Charity on the end. Crystal Brilliance is a continuous trap card that you can only control one of, and for good reason, because while it's on the field, Crystal Beast monsters you control gain attack equal to their original defense. And if any number of Crystal Beast cards are placed in your spell and trap zone, even during the damage step, you can send this face-up card from the spell and trap zone to the grave to special summon a Crystal Beast monster from your hand or grave. Also, any damage you take this turn is halved. Now, this doesn't do anything to advance your combos by itself, but it does make some of your monsters a complete menace on the battlefield. Amethyst is only going to grow to 1600, but everything else is cracked. Sapphire Pegasus grows to 3000, Topaz goes to 26, but also gets to 3000 on attack. Tortoise becomes a 2600 attacker, that's kinda wild, but Amber Mammoth is the biggest winner, turning into a 3300 attacker that can still direct attacks towards itself. And you can cash that in for a new monster when one of your Crystal Beasts get crystallized, while keeping you from taking as much battle damage as you might have otherwise. This is a solid one-of to search when things boil down to just battle phases, because when it gets to that point, Brilliance will make sure you come out on top, even if it does make you a little catty. Crystal Miracle is a counter trap card that you can activate when a spell card, trap card, or monster effect is activated. You destroy a Crystal Beast card you control, and if you do, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. And if any number of Crystal Beast cards are placed in your spell and trap zone while this card is in the grave, even during the damage step, you can banish this card to place a Crystal Beast monster from your hand, deck, or grave face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. Check it out, everyone! Crystal Beasts have their own searchable Omni-Negate. Hey, if there was ever a way to ensure that Miracle leaves your spell and trap zone to make room, making it so it hit everything was a good way to do it. And it effectively doubles up your crystallization, giving you a second back row Crystal Beast when one gets sent. Not much else to say about this one, though I've gotta say, it's a miracle they even got a card like this. That does it for the structure deck, but I told a bit of a fib by omission earlier. See, I didn't cover all the Crystal Beasts that came out before the structure deck, and that's because the latest Animation Chronicles set released a long-awaited series of monsters to coincide with a field spell we've had for quite some time. The Advanced Crystal Beasts, dark versions of Jesse's companions after Yubel took the wheel. So this section is dedicated to all those edgy Neopets. But first, their replacement for Rainbow Ruins, Advanced Dark. While on the field, all Crystal Beast monsters on the field and in the grave become dark, and if an ultimate crystal monster attacks, negate the effects of the attack target during that battle phase. And during damage calculation, if a Crystal Beast monster you control battles and you would take damage, you can send a Crystal Beast monster from your deck to the grave to take no battle damage instead. This is a pretty neat card that helps fill your grave with Crystal Beasts while keeping your life points intact. And if your big rainbow dragons attack anything, you strip it of any protections, save from just being plain ineffective. It's a neat card overall, but I don't think this version of Rainbow Ruins looks very good when ported to the Game Boy Advanced Crystal Beasts. Alright, now it's time for the monsters proper, but beforehand, there is an effect they all share. On top of the regular Crystal Beast crystallization, if Advanced Dark is not in the field zone, they're sent to the graveyard. Not destroyed, sent, so they don't crystallize off of that effect. I guess they wanted to deter you from mixing them too much with base Crystal Beasts, but to be fair, their effects are really pushed. But thankfully, when crystallized and in your back row, they stay whether or not Advanced Dark is on the field. Oh, and you might notice that all the Advanced Crystal Beasts retain their original attribute, but while Advanced Dark is on the board, they will be treated as Dark monsters, so keep that in mind. Advanced Crystal Beast Ruby Carbuncle is a level 3 Light Fairy monster with 300 attack and defense, and while it's treated as a continuous spell, you can special summon as many Advanced Crystal Beast monster cards as possible from your spell and trap zone. This compares strangely with regular Ruby, as it can swarm the field on any special summon, while Advanced Ruby specifically has to be in the back row to activate that effect, and it only special summons other Advanced Crystal Beasts, where regular Ruby could summon either of them because they're all still Crystal Beasts at the end of the day. The upside is that Advanced Ruby could conceivably do that every turn it can bring itself back, as well as any of its dark buddies, without the need for a Crystal Promise or Beacon. And you can tell it's a member of the Dark Gang because of its big bug eyes and its Hot Topic branded spiked collar. Very goth. Advanced Crystal Beast Emerald Tortoise is a level 3 Water Aqua monster with 600 attack and 2000 defense, and as a quick effect, you can target a face-up monster on the field and change its battle position. This is just a straight upgrade over base Tortoise. You can still use it on itself, but you can change something else's battle position to make it more vulnerable or shore up your own monsters. And because this can be used on your opponent's turn, this can also shut off attacks. attacks. So forget snapping turtles, our emerald friend here is more of a snap you in half turtle. Advanced Crystal Beast Amethyst Cat is a level 3 Earth Beast monster with 1200 attack and 400 defense, and it allows all of your Advanced Crystal Beast monsters to attack directly, but if they use this effect to do so, the damage is still halved. Once again, aside from self-destructing without the field spell, this is just a better version of Amethyst Cat, allowing everyone in on the fun of bypassing blocking and going in for game. Even if the damage is halved, if you throw enough attacks in, you're bound to win eventually. Don't go using Pot of Prosperity if that's the case. Dealing quarter damage isn't very conducive. Crystal Beast Cobalt Eagle is a level 4 Wind-Winged Beast monster with 1400 attack and 800 defense, and once per turn you can target an advanced Crystal Beast monster you control and either return it to the hand or place it on top of your deck. This is a much better way to recycle your advanced Crystal Beast than its original version, but the best effect of this card is that you can send it from your hand or field to the grave to add an advanced dark from your deck to your hand. So now you don't have to use your terraforming or salvation to search the field spell. And because it's still a Crystal Beast, it'll count towards your total Rainbow Dragon count in the grave. So if you ever want to mix this with regular Crystal Beasts, just swap out the base Eagle for this one. Though I won't have to remind anyone out there who's a bit more eagle-eyed. Advanced Crystal Beast Topaz Tiger is a level 4 Earth Beast monster with 1600 attack and 1000 defense, and it boosts all of your Advanced Crystal Beast monsters' attack and defense by 400, while debuffing all face-up monsters your opponent controls by 400 attack and defense. And those stack, so the more Topaz Tigers you have on the field, the better they get. And the worse it gets for your opponent, because the more emaciated their monsters get, the easier it'll be to clobber them. Advanced Crystal Beast Amber Mammoth is a level 4 Earth Beast monster with 1700 attack and 1600 defense, and once per turn when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets any number of your Advanced Crystal Beast cards and or Advanced Dark, as a quick effect you can negate the activation. And once per turn when your Advanced Crystal Beast monster is targeted for an attack, you can negate that attack. Wowee, I love this card. It keeps your very necessary field spell safe and can stop an attack from running over your advanced monsters. And because it's not a hard once per turn, more copies means more negates. But don't push them too hard, they probably have a little trouble breathing with that nose guard on. Seriously, can someone loosen that for them? Advanced Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus is a level 4 Wind Beast monster with 1800 attack and 1200 defense, and if this card is summoned, you can place one of your Advanced Crystal Beast monsters that are banished in your hand, deck, or grave in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell card. So this can grab you banished Advanced Crystal Beasts, which is the only thing it has over base Pegasus. That'll be relevant in just a moment, but it's not meaningfully better than the base version. Heck, I'd argue that it's worse than regular Pegasus because the original can place both versions of the Crystal Beasts. So unless you plan on banishing a lot of your critters from the grave, which to be fair is gonna happen in just a bit, I'd give this card a wide berth. Advancing doesn't always mean improving after all. This all culminates in Rainbow Dark Dragon, a level 10 Dark Dragon monster with 4000 attack and 0 defense that's always treated as an ultimate crystal monster. It can't be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 7 dark monsters with different names from your grave. You can also banish all other dark monsters on the field and grave, and this card gains a permanent 500 attack boost for each. So while you can play this in any dark deck, Advanced Dark makes it much easier to play in Crystal Beasts. Once it's on your field, any Crystal Beast, advanced or otherwise, becomes dark, and thus the right kind of fodder for Rainbow Dark Dragon's summon. The issue is that, unlike Rainbow Dragon proper, you have to banish as part of the summon, so you need even more darks to get the bonus. Not to mention that you probably won't have the monsters in grave for Overdrive summon. Though, granted, at least this card can use its effects on the turn it's summoned, so you can make better use of Rainbow Refraction. Seriously, I'm not getting over that! Oh, and I guess Malefic Rainbow Dragon exists too, and it's kind of tied in with us because, you know, we need to have our field spells, but it really doesn't have anything to do with us. I also suppose this video wouldn't be the comprehensive guide that it is if we didn't mention Rainbow Neos. Though if you want a better breakdown of that, I'd highly recommend checking out the Neos and Neospatian section of my Heroes Explained mega series. Suffice it to say, it's much more of a Neos card than a Crystal Beast card. We lack a card in Crystal Beasts that can help make this easily, and while Neos Fusion exists, that's once again a card that works way better in an actual Neos deck. And because Verte Anaconda is banned, we can no longer just slap 2 monsters together to summon out the giant Rainbow Daddy. Alright, so that's all the Crystal Beast cards, but what do we do with them? Well, as far as I can see, we want to use our impressive suite of board breakers, propped up by our colorful cast of support cards, to set up a big OTK, either by enabling an Abundance OTK, or going over 9,000 with Overdrive. So anything that can tie our opponent's hands while we set things up is a-okay with me. So what can we play to help them out? Well, first I want to go over some cards that were released around the same time that worked with continuous spells that aren't actually part of our archetype, but were basically implied. I'm not going to mention all of them because honestly we've been here long enough, but Gem Flash Energy is a neat way to leverage your crystallized beasts for damage, though it does take up a slot in your back row, so it gets a hard pass. Grava Crush Dragon and Magna Slash Dragons were both big monsters that could convert our continuous spells into removal, and that was pretty swell, at least for the time. And Seismic Crasher could do the same with continuous spells and traps to deal burn damage. Now, as for ways to keep our opponent off their game plan, consider playing a little card called Needle Sealing. Decks like Crawlers or Guru Control like it because it doesn't destroy set monsters, but we're actually looking for that as well. Wait until the optimal moment, then board wipe your opponent while setting up your back row. Torrential Tribute makes for another awesome pick, and both have their strengths and weaknesses. Once the condition is met, Needle Sealing can be activated whenever, whereas Torrential Tribute can only be activated in response to a summon. However, the giant Tornado Cannon destroys all monsters on the board, including face-down ones, so if your opponent is hiding under a set monster, then Torrential is a better way to get rid of it. As stated previously, a lot of our monsters fall into the Tri-Brigade Tri-types, so you might want to consider running a few for removal purposes. Shrag gets you some non-targeting banishing removal each turn, and if you used Grave Linking to summon it by banishing 4 monsters, then you can search a Sapphire Pegasus when Shrag leaves the field to really tap into that Crystal Beast power. These next few cards have effectively been outmoded by the passage of power creep, but I think they still deserve a mention. Sky, would you be so kind as to regale the audience about Crystal Beast's other boss monsters?
Sure thing. So back in the early days of Crystal Beast, Rainbow Dragon was super hard to get onto the field. You'd spend all this time assembling all the names just to have a big monster that hardly did anything, and got wiped by removal before it could use its effects. But what if I told you about another giant boss monster that was much easier to summon? It has the same attack, a larger effect, and much more relevant effects. And if you've been watching for a while, you've already seen them once before, so put your hands together for Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder. It can run over just about anything in combat, deals extra burn damage when it does, and in a pinch, you can turn them sideways and protect your entire monster lineup with its 4,000 defense, because in that mode, it's the only monster your opponent can attack. But that's not all. If you don't want to give up the Crystal Beasts in your back row, you can instead summon Dragon Queen of Tragic Endings. While Haman sends 3 face-up continuous spell cards, Dragon Queen just says you need to have 3 or more continuous spells. Its stats aren't as big, but essentially siphons off your opponent's hand when it deals battle damage. And if it gets sent to the grave, then you can revive it during your next standby phase by sending a single Crystal Beast back row to the grave.
Thank you, Sky. And speaking of input, I couldn't have a guest on here without getting input from the Crystal Beast connoisseur himself, Neshy. Why don't you tell the folks at home something really cool you can do with these crystal critters?
Thank you, Nova. What a great guide this has been. As we venture into the new era of Crystal Beasts, there are 3 key things you need to know about the deck that will help you in your crystal creativity. The first is that Sapphire Pegasus is a 1-card Link 2 or Rank 4. Anywhere from the Nightmares and the Charmers to Baguska and Utopia Double, Pegasus is one of the most versatile normal summons in the game. Secondly, Rainbow Bridge of Salvation can search Pegasus in any field spell in the game. Here's where things start to get even more cracked, since now you can combo your 1-card Utopia Double with the dreaded Mystic Mine for surprise OTKs. But this also allows you to tap into other archetypes like True Draco. Use Pegasus to make Raid Raptor 4 Strix, search Blackwing Zephyros, pop it with your Search Dragonic Diagram, and use Zephyros to loop Diagram once again. Finally, the third treasure is found in the extra normal summon provided to us by Rainbow Bridge of the Heart. Not only can we summon generic good cards like Inspector Border, Denko Sekka, and Raw Sphere mode, but we can also summon the cards that we searched off of our field spells. Search out Union Hanger and summon an ABC piece, or Magical Meltdown for Alistair the Invoker if you're feeling particularly evil. While these options are fantastic for building hybrid decks, they also help bolster the best way to play pure Crystal Beasts, a mid-range strategy I call Conclave Control. Now, I could really bend your ear about this, but to keep it brief, utilize the deck's powerful control options like Conclave, Miracle, and a searchable Necro Valley, and OTK on the following turn with Awakening for big Ruby Rampage. Like Nova said, you can find all of these tricks of the trade on my channel. Now that you have these tools at your disposal, go forth and begin your crystal conquest.
Thank you very much. Now, as for a weird tech pick, I'm gonna go with the card that should have always been a crystal beast, Diamond Dire Wolf. It's a big crystal animal, it's got diamond in the name, it blows up tri-types, and all of our best crystal beasts are tri-types, and blowing up our own monsters is very good as it turns out. Konami, I don't care if it takes a retrain, I don't care if it takes an errata, just make it happen! And that's all I have to say about Crystal Beasts. This deck is looking pretty savage once the structure deck comes out. Of course, very little can stand up against the powerful boards of the Sprite and Tearlament meta at the moment, but I feel that with enough ingenuity and gumption, and maybe a few good banlist hits, these heartfelt furry friends can pull through and claim victory, even in the darkest of circumstances. Which will be doubly true if you make the circumstances dark with Advanced Dark, so there's that. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Are Crystal Beasts a diamond in the rough, or do our gems still need a bit more polish? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to show your support, ring that bell so you don't miss an episode, and share this video with someone you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. And of course, a big thank you to Neshy for agreeing to come on today's episode and sharing his wisdom. I super appreciate it. Once again, link should be in the description. Go subscribe, you won't regret it. Today's episode was sponsored by my lovely patrons, including Quasar Commander Harry, the ominous benefactor, special contributor Gibbles the Gibble, Nebula Navigators 3rd Dynasty, Adam Zajdel, Ashling Waltz, Avi Chali, Benjamin Meisner, Kane Senpai, Cameron Berg, Eric, Frankie, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, Gloomba331, Great Big Pillock, Howling Zangetsu, Ironic, John Manji, Julia Sneezer, Larakia, Meteornus, Michael Madsen, Mighty Action X, Muzuki Clark, Neo Trinity, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, Rem T. Bright, RJ the Jank Monarch, Ruxith Sarani, Sophie, apparently, The Fresh Prince of Conair, The Wizard Moose, True Neutral, Tyler Cranston, Xander Wolfensberger and Zyrus, Cosmic Crusaders, Bear Sharktopus Studios, Chaz Ghost, Corbinisms, Emily, Eva Padilla, Inblink, Jesus Garcia, KL, Kale the Dragon, King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lord Whoop-De-Doo, Manga Pages, Marion James E. Picata, Nitromo, RGS, Shooting Star 3300, Star-Lord 777, and the Legendary Raven, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. I'm only able to continue doing this thanks to the support of these lovely people, so if you'd like to be a part of these credits, as well as help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, please check out my YouTube membership or Patreon links in the description to see if I have anything you'd like on offer. And if you want to see another video about monsters that love hanging out in the back row, check out this video I made on Plunder Patrol. And if you want to see two Yu-Gi-Tubers going at it, check out Noah Jenkinai's latest series Progression Polls, where your voice shapes the format. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.